Hello everybody, happy Friday. We are here on Friday, April 24th. I am going to be walking you through your objective and your directions today, as well as your activity at the end to look at how to end your week of research here. All right, so our first one is your objective. I can plan my project by drafting my lead and ending. Draft is a really big word here, guys. We are not committing to a final product today. We're just getting some ideas out. All right, so here are your directions. Watch the screencast. If you can see me and hear me, you're doing that. Good job. We're going to look at some options together as well as some other resources, so your checklist and your sample project, and then we'll fill out the Google form. So really the goal of today is, before we do our whole project next week, I need to know what is a strong beginning and a strong ending so I can fill in the middle pieces next week and really focus on that. Okay, so if we click here, guys, you can open up this document. So this is a resource to help you figure out what a lead and an ending is. All right, so what is a lead? First, we're going to think about that. The purpose is, it's a lot like a hook in your writing, right? So it's helping get the reader both a little bit oriented with the topic as well as excited about what you have to say. It is going to show up in your project kind of very first thing, right? So it should be right before that table of contents, the first thing that your audience will see, whether it's a Wii video or a slides or whatever you choose to do. It's going to be that kind of first thing that they have to look at. All right, so if we look at our example one from last week, this is what this looks like. Carbon footprints in our planet. One footprint could change everything, right? So that's this person's lead. Very strong way to do it, saying that one footprint, that makes it personal. I could do that, right? I have feet, I could make one footprint, and it's saying one footprint, could change everything. Very strong start there. So that's what we're looking at when we talk about a lead, okay? So here on this document, there's a couple things you want to look at. This is your rubric. This is how you will be scored on the lead, right? So it talks about, I wrote an introduction in which interests the readers, perhaps with a quote or a significant fact. I may have included my own ideas about the topic. I let the readers know the subtopics that I would develop later and how my text will unfold. Now this is for an essay. Obviously ours is different since it's a project, but the idea still is, if I look at the very first thing on your project, can I tell you what the rest of the project is about? The answer needs to be yes on that, right? Just like here, okay? So here are some examples or ways that you can do this. You are not, and I'm going to repeat that, not limited to this list. These are just some ideas to get your brain going, okay? But if you have a better way to do it, please do that, okay? So you could do a what if question. These are all going to be based off of our sample topic, which is carbon footprint. So what if humans did not take care of the earth? Really interesting question, gets your reader interested. You could do an imagine statement. Imagine a world where resources never ran out and nature was preserved, right? That gets you thinking, that gets me interested. Just like we practice in class, guys, you could do a metaphor or a simile, so make a comparison to something maybe unlike it. Your carbon footprint is an invisible giant following you everywhere you go. That's our metaphor. To make that a simile, we're going to add that word like, so it's like an invisible giant. Awesome. You could do a fact or statistic if you found one in your articles that was really interesting and you think would be a really good, powerful start. A carbon footprint is basically the total number of greenhouse gas emissions that anything, a person, organization, event, or product has produced. That's from a website, right? You could do that. Or I know a lot of you like to do the quote. You can also do that. We have forgotten how to be good guests, how to walk lightly on earth as its other creatures do, excuse me. So that could be a really interesting first part of whatever your project looks like, right? The lead is so important, guys, because again, it is going to get your reader interested and it's going to set the tone for the rest of your project, okay? So you may want to pause right now and think about your lead. You can open up that Google form and start answering what lead you might do. Awesome. Okay, so then you're going to now think about your ending. So we have to kind of sandwich it again. What is my beginning and ending going to be? We'll fill in the middle part next week. So endings, pretty simple, right? You probably guessed. It's the final message to your audience. This is where your conclusion comes to play and kind of shows maybe what you learned or presents even a new thought or new thinking on your topic, okay? Now, a lot of people get really stressed about their ending, saying that, oh my gosh, I need to answer all of my research questions. That's not necessarily true, okay? So we know that the ending will be the last thing that we see before your bibliography. But if we look back to our sample project, this person actually goes through and answers a lot of the research questions before the ending, okay? So if I move myself over here, you can see a little bit better. This is already answering one of the first research questions, which is just talking about like what is CO2? It's giving me information, right? Really nice graphic here that shows CO2 emissions over time and what that looks like. Another question is asked here and it is immediately answered. So you don't have to wait until the ending. In fact, you probably should not wait until the ending to give us those answers, right? Just like we do in our writing, this is not your time for new information necessarily. It's more wrapping up what you've already done. Okay, they ask another question here, boom, they answer it right away. More answers to that question in a nice graphic. They made a wee video as well, like we talked about earlier this week, that's adding in, again, asking a question but answering it immediately there. More resources and information on answering kind of what can you do, that question. I, again, really love the way that this person organized their thoughts here, but again, it gives me an answer already, okay? So for this person, their ending is a new thought about the topic. So they've already provided me, here's an answer to my research question, here's an answer to my research question, here's an answer to my research question. Now they are leaving me with kind of this last thought of ultimately, just be mindful. It's almost like a call to action, right? And it's saying just be informed and aware of making small choices each day to reduce your carbon footprint. That will make a big impact. Not new information, but leaving you with something to think about and even something you can do, which is it's asking you to be mindful, right? So same thing here, guys. You have your rubric. So the conclusion needs to restate your important ideas and offer a final insight or implication for the readers to consider. Notice it does not say new information there, right? We don't want new information. We want it just to leave us with something to think about, okay? So here are some options for you. And again, you are not limited to these. If you have a better way to do it, please do that. So you could answer some of the questions with some restated information like we've talked about. So by understanding what your carbon footprint is, you can make a small change like how you shop or leave the world a better place. So it kind of just wraps up all three questions in one statement there to remind your reader. Okay? Possible solution, I just read you that one from our sample project. It's saying just be mindful, right? I also called that a call to action. Those ones are pretty similar. But it could leave your reader with, okay, now that you know this thing about my topic, why don't you try this? Or what could you do, right? So now that you know more about your carbon footprint, try to use less energy, shop better, and use less plastic. That's another way you could end that. Or finally, what bigger question could you ask about the topic? So like we talked about in class with our intros and conclusions, this is kind of that bigger shape of that Jolly Rancher that we talked about. If you are familiar with that metaphor, it's kind of a bigger idea. So what things can you do in your everyday life to make a change? That's a really cool thought-provoking statement that doesn't drop any new information on us, but just leaves us thinking, okay? So remember that these are just ideas. You're going to go to your Google form now, and it's going to ask you just to fill out a couple of questions about what you're thinking right now, okay? Just ideas, just a draft today. If you need any help, please contact your teacher, and we'll be happy to get back to you quickly. But I hope this goes well for you, and I hope this helped you with your lead and ending.